All right, let's talk about coming back from the Grand Canyon.
Should we do one of those things like everybody does on the?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Eh.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Like, it's like the kids do these days on the TikToks and everything.
So by the time we left the Grand Canyon, we knew that we were supposed to be going back to Tulsa.
Yeah.
And
God told us that day to drop the car back off in Tulsa, and I am confused. I am confused. It's like, Lord, we just drove
all of this
2
way
days to
turn
get
around.
here.
How many miles was it?
3 days. It was right about 2,500, 2,600 miles total. So about 1,300 miles, 1,250 miles to get there, something like that.
And then like God is like, well, you came here and enjoyed the Grand Canyon. Now go back.
He sent us straight back to Tulsa. Yep.
Right? And then I think the first big thing for us, leaving the Grand Canyon was, God, where do you want us to stop that night? We were kind of assuming that it would have been Flagstaff because that was where we had stopped when we were coming. But we felt, no, you need to stop to actually hear the Lord around this.
Yeah, that was hard to sit still. Just, park by the side of the road in a little parking lot and just wait to hear God. I nearly started driving away twice, I think.
I was like, no, you have not gotten an answer yet. Let's sit and wait.
Right.
And that was when he told us that we were supposed to drive as far as we could that night.
Yep.
And I think that was when we ended up back in Shamrock.
It was back in Shamrock. It wasn't the same hotel.
Because when we called that hotel, the hotel was booked out. And it's that same night we stopped for dinner. I don't remember which. I think it was probably a McDonald's. I think. And you went to go pay for stuff. I went to the restroom, and when I came back, you told me, well, baby, the other card is now maxed out, and you had to use the previous card, which a balance had fallen off and opened up, that I had in my mind, oh, that is how we're going to pay for the car when we get back, because Miss Planner in me is already trying to think 10 million steps ahead of God. So I started panicking again, like, so God, if we're going to have to use, that means we haven't paid for a hotel yet. How are we going to do that and pay for the car when the amount of money we have on the card don't cover that? Wouldn't.
Okay, so what she meant was that the deposit for the car had come off of the card, and that space was freed up now on the card to be able to use it again. That was unexpected that day. And so God covered us. He covered us in multiple ways, from friends sending money for Chanel's birthday, to the deposit coming off the card, to something else while we were on the trip. But at every point, we were kind of expecting the cards to decline because it wasn't just out of money. It was maxed out on the credit cards, which is embarrassing to talk about, honestly, even though it's what God said specifically to do. And we had just paid these off, or we just paid one of them entirely off.
I was almost finished paying off the second one,
and so
because God had put us in a season of financial stewardship.
Right. And so when God said, go run these up, we said, is this even biblical? Like, is this even... You just got done telling us. And he reminded us that his mercies are new every morning, that he speaks with a still small voice. He sent Elijah an earthquake, a great wind, and a fire. And he wasn't in any of those three as signs. And then there was a small blowing, a still small voice afterwards, and that was where God was. And so learning to listen to him was the theme of this trip, 100%.
Yeah.
Learning to speak to him and ask him honest questions was the being honest with God. That was the theme, and listening honestly to him.
For you, and then for me, it was learning to trust him, because I did not realize I did not trust God in this area.
I think it was that for me as well, because you can't be honest with someone you don't trust. No, that's not something that is safe to do.
And that's, there's a scripture that talks about God uses the foolishness of men to confound the wise, and I believe that God walks us into directs us into certain situations, because there is a process of sanctification and refinement that he wants to do within us, right? And so I think for both of us, there was that aspect of it that was going on, because let me tell you what happened. So it was an aspect. Yeah, it was. we booked a hotel which was a lot more expensive than I would have wanted, and I was so sad that the Shamrock Hotel that I was was saying that we could do was fully booked out. And so I'm like, God, it's not even that much more expensive, but it was, to me, it's just like, God, why the cheaper one is not available kind of thing. And we get to that hotel, we check in, and when we check in, as we stand at the room door and so forth, I have this experience where the Lord just gave me flashes of memories from like childhood coming up as late as last Christmas, around me as his daughter, persons asking me what do I want, or me knowing what I want but looking and saying, my parent can't afford this, or oh, this is too expensive so I won't ask for it, etc. Right? And the Lord said to me, he brought back up the question that I asked him the previous 2 days ago about, God, how do I trust you in this area, in this context? And he said to me, stop watching your parents' checkbook. That was it. Right? He's like, be like a child who goes into the candy store and point out what you want. Daddy, I want this. Daddy, I want that. Right? And not be thinking, oh, this is too expensive, or I know that we are in financial straits, so I'm not going to ask. He's like, approach it like, be like a child. Right? Isn't that what Jesus said? Like, to have the manner of a child to enter the kingdom. Right? Yeah. And for me, it was just a moment that really broke me, because I realized I had gone to the point where I was so tired of being the one to plan and figure out how to make the money stretch, or being the one to figure out how to make the things work, because we don't have the resources to do it. And it's not that I was doing it in our marriage, but I've built that pattern and way of being for years now.
It built that persona and that decision. It's God was revealing to her that you didn't have to be you weren't that all along. You decided you were that, but you weren't in charge all along. So you never had to be.
Yeah, I never had to be. I was never the role that he had designed me, the hat he had designed me to wear, or the role that I was desired to fill. Like, he's our protector, he's our father, he's our provider, all of that stuff. That's his role. I didn't have to stand in the role of provider for anything.
Yep.
And so that night, it was him inviting me into a space I had never walked before. And so I'm thankful for that night.
Yeah. We don't want to give the impression that this was not an enjoyable trip. It was an incredibly enjoyable trip.
It was.
We loved it. Even down to just seeing trains. We saw on the way to Flagstaff I think we saw 7 trains that day, something like that. And we got to see all these giant windmills, just wind farms all over the place as we drove across the top of Texas and on Highway 40 and Route 66.
And the Arizona, New Mexico desert was wonderful.
Gorgeous and desolate and incredible, and how does anybody be here, and all the feels. And God was teaching us all these lessons, and we were choosing to stress out over these lessons, and we were hopefully maturing quite quickly.
Yeah.
But it was like God was showing us, hey, look, the suffering that you have is not because I am desiring to inflict suffering on you.
That's beautiful.
This is you. This is you choosing to suffer for years and years and years, and you choosing to ignore me in this way and that way and the other way. And what I have for you is intimacy. Words, you know? What I have for you is communion. What I have for you is a seat at the table. What I have for you is provision. What I have for you is fatherhood. And none of that requires suffering. Sin is what requires suffering. Sin, the wages of sin is death. Okay, it's time to die to that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's going to hurt because of what you've built up over the years around it, but it didn't have to.
That was not the plan.
It's not me doing it to you. It was never my
design, any of that stuff. And
so rewarding and refreshing and wonderful.
I really got that on our way back.
Yeah.
Like that final day was weird, like leaving the hotel and feeling that level of dread, like, oh my Lord, how many hours do we have to get to Tulsa? And about a third of the way into the journey, it struck me. God has been so gracious to us. God has been so loving. God has been so kind. This is the trip that people dream of going on. This is a trip.
It's like part of the literal Great American Road Trip on Route 66. Yeah.
This is a trip I have wanted to do since I was a kid.
And we got to do it on her birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great birthday present, Lord. Thank you.
And so I said, God, you know what? I am going to lean fully into the joyfulness of this gift that you have given to us.
Yeah.
I am not going to worry. If you keep telling me, don't worry. And this was the thing God kept saying to me, don't worry, I've got you. Over and over and over again. I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to trust you with that. And I'm going to relax and I'm going to enjoy this drive with my wonderful hubby. And just enjoy the scenery and everything. And we did that all the way back, I think, to Tulsa. And when we got to Tulsa, that's when the fear...
I don't remember. I've trauma blocked it.
That's when the fear kicked in again, because we did not know where we were going to stay that night. We knew we were supposed to go straight to the airport to drop off the car.
That was about the only instruction we had. He was giving us instructions
step by step,
just a few hours ahead of time, most of the time. And sometimes, I mean, just
we
minutes ahead of
we
time.
Stop and we wait. All right, God, what we're doing here?
Yeah. And that was very intentional on our part as well. I mean, we were fully on board with the idea of let's learn to listen. That's what we want here. And so there was no intentional resistance from us on any of this stuff. And that was more delightful than the Grand Canyon. As wonderful as the Grand Canyon was, and as nostalgic from when I was 17 and got to see it and run along and be there beyond just pictures, it was so wonderful. But God's presence and his instruction and his growth for us, that was the real gift.
Do you know what I just forgot?
No.
midway to Tulsa, that was when the Lord said to us, "It is okay to accept Jody's offer."
Yeah. He told us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but we didn't even know when that would trigger in. So it's not like we're going back to Tulsa with the goal that, oh, we're going to to Kansas.
Yeah,
Immediately.
Jody was on his own road trip.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even know when he was going to be back.
We don't even know when we were going to get to talk to him. But it was like, God was like, all right, it is okay for you to accept this. That's where you're going next after your time in Tulsa is done.
Yeah.
We messaged Jody to say, okay, God has given go ahead. And then we left it to go back to the airport.
Yep.
And I remember getting to the airport and I was a nervous wreck because I kept thinking, the guy scanned the car to check in the car, like to note the return. And I'm like, Jeremy is taking too long to take the stuff out of the car. Like, what if they suddenly realize, what if there's some fluke, and they suddenly realized, oh, the car didn't go through. The car seemed to go through. They had nothing there. But there's all of these things that was playing in my head. And so I could not even settle down until we went over to the airport to go sit down, to go wait for the Lord to tell us what to do around where we'll be sleeping that night.
Yeah.
And so we got the notice from the car company to say that it was paid. And what was fun about that, what was interesting about that, it was the trip, the cost that it would have cost to go to drop off the car in Arizona turned out to be way less.
No, other way around.
Uh-huh.
So taking it back to Tulsa saved about $550 or $600.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no one-way drop fee.
Yeah, and then
it was a shocking difference.
What was also interesting about it is that what we had rented the car like probably 3 days, because we went to Kansas with the car, and then we went back to Tulsa, and then from Tulsa to Arizona and back to Tulsa, and the cost of the deposit plus the payment for the car for the Kansas for the Tulsa to Kansas trip and back turned out to be around the same cost to have the car for the entire duration that we had it. I remember being so surprised by that.
I think it was about $470 total.
Mm-hmm.
So the deposit, not the damage deposit, the $250 that fell off on our second to last day, but the deposit plus the rental itself, I think we only ended up with like another $70, $60 out of pocket above that, above the original amount. It was a shock to us. And God knew the whole time, and He was just giggling at us.
I was like, will you just trust me? And so we're sitting in that airport. He told us to book an Airbnb for, I think it was like for 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we headed off to our Airbnb,
which was wonderful.
It was wonderful. A skyline view with most amazing sunsets, etc. But then God did something later that night. But this is where we're stopping this video.
All right.
So we'll tell you all about what God does and how He provides.
The end.
We love you.
And then we died.